Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly O'Horo, and this is Adaptable Behavior Explained. Hi there. Welcome to Adaptable. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm Kelly O'Horo, your host, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about some strategies for effective communication. I talked about on another episode the types of communication, and today I want to zero in a little bit more on strategies to help you improve the way that you communicate in your relationships. How do you get your point across in ways that are more effective, and ultimately to improve connection, to improve outcomes, and oftentimes to improve the way that you are able to get what it is that you want in communication that you have. So, we're going to break down some strategies, and I'm going to talk specifically about an approach that was developed by PM Melody, and it gives you your best shot at getting your needs met and for you to feel heard. We're also going to discuss the importance of taking accountability for the stories that we create and the stories that we make up and the assumptions that we make when people say things that they say or how they land on you creates a fairy tale oftentimes, and we have to take accountability for that. We're going to talk about empathic failure and how to repair after conflict. Plus, we'll introduce another essential communication strategy. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, in my other show, I talked about assertive, passive aggressive, and aggressive communication. So, I encourage you to watch that show first to learn a little bit more about the specificity related to those types of communication styles. But we're always going to do our best and have the best outcome if we can adopt most assertive communication. And so it's a powerful tool that helps us express our thoughts, our feelings. We're clear and we're respectful. And there's a 4-step approach that I like to teach my clients about assertive communication. And it involves a specific sentence structure that seems clunky. It seems really hard at first, but it becomes easy with practice. So it has 4 key components. And the first thing we want to address is like what has happened. So you're going to describe the event or the situation objectively, like just the data, no opinions or emotions. Then you're going to chime in with the feelings. So it's what do I feel emotionally about what happened? You're going to share your emotional response to the event. This is I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm disappointed. The next part that happens that's left out of most structure that counselors will give you is this key factor, and this is the story that we make up about it or the assumption that we make. We have to acknowledge the narrative or the assumption that we've created in our mind. You were late and didn't get there on time for my graduation. And the story I make up is that you don't care about me or that I'm not important to you. So we create a story up in our mind about what's going on. We also have to discuss what we want very clearly. So we have to state our needs, our desires, and talk about what it is that we want as effective outcomes. So let me give you an example and I'll illustrate each part of this sentence structure. We talk about first what has happened. So yesterday during our team meeting, you interrupted me several times while I was presenting my idea. So this is the statement of facts. There's no opinion. These are just what happened. And then we're going to chime in with the feelings. So what I feel emotionally about what happened is I felt frustrated and disrespected when this happened. And then the next factor we want to talk about is the story that we make up about it. And so the story I make up in my head is that you don't value my contributions or my opinions. And then we want to chime in with what it is that we want. So what I want is for you to allow me to finish speaking before you share your thoughts so that we can have a more respectful and productive discussion. And so by using this structure, we can communicate our feelings and our needs effectively while taking accountability for the stories that we make up in our heads, which we all do, let's face it. So the next thing that I want to teach you after that sentence structure is taking accountability for our stories. So it's so important to recognize that we all do this. We all create stories in our minds that totally impact our communication, our relationships. And when we don't take accountability for the fact that these stories happen and we hold them as truths, then it doesn't acknowledge that they're just our interpretations and that they probably don't reflect reality. So this accountability step allows us to approach conversations with an open mind and a willingness to listen. The next thing that we have to discuss is how we clarify and we refute when someone gets it wrong. And so you want to have the listener give us the feedback, but then we want to say, did I get that right or did I get that wrong? And when we give the listener an opportunity to clarify or refute what happened, it's essential in assertive communication. This is the step that helps us ensure that both people have a clear understanding of the situation and it can address any misunderstandings. It fosters a sense of mutual respect. So when we get it wrong, we have an easier time collaborating when we're able to kick back when something isn't quite right and it landed in the wrong way, and we take that feedback. The next piece that we've got to talk about is empathic failure. So, this concept is a fancy way of saying somebody hurt our feelings and we got it wrong in the delivery. And so, the key about empathic failure is just taking accountability when that happens and then repairing. So, this empathic failure occurs when we fail to understand or acknowledge the emotions and the experiences of others. So, when this happens, it's important to circle back and repair the relationship. Repairing after conflict is one of the most healing and connecting experiences that happens, and it's part of what creates and cultivates connection and intimacy. It involves acknowledging the hurt. We want to take responsibility, and then we want to make amends. We want to say, I'm really sorry. I'm going to work on doing this better the next time. And this process really strengthens the bond between people, and it promotes emotional healing. So, the fifth aspect with assertive communication that we want to discuss is a communication strategy with relation to assertive communication. So, another important communication strategy that we're going to discuss is related to active listening. Active listening, it involves fully engaging with the speaker. We don't have our phone in our hands. We're not listening to the TV show. We're not doing something else, but we're engaging with the speaker fully, and it's where we're showing empathy and we provide feedback. It helps build trust, it helps us ensure understanding and ultimately better connection. And so, if you can think about utilizing these 5 strategies for effective communication more regularly, it's just like any muscle. You've got to practice it to get the repetitions in to strengthen this experience. And so we want to improve our assertive communication and the importance of taking accountability of our stories, our assumptions that we make. We want to make sure that we clarify and we refute when something isn't quite right. And then when that happens, we want to, recognize that there's an empathic failure. We've hurt somebody's feelings, or take that feedback from our listener and work on repair. And then the last piece that's common in all communication strategies is really focusing on active listening. And I think for the most part, we could do a much better job generally about active listening. We're all very distracted. And so I think it's an important skill that we've got as a society, got to zoom in on and work on that. But ultimately, these 5 strategies can really improve your relationships, foster healthier communication, and ultimately cultivate greater connection. I hope that you found this all helpful and that you can put to practice some of these skills that I shared with you today and improve your relationships and clarity and understanding between the people that you care about and yourself. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you gained what you wanted to out of this show. And don't forget to share or subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and give us some feedback about how these strategies for communication improvement are going in practice in your lives. And until we meet again, don't forget to lead with love. It'll never steer you wrong.